And welcome to this video on recording your tube amp with 2Notes' new software called Genome. I don't really talk, I generally shut up and play my guitar, so I'm going to push myself this year to record a few tutorial videos both on tone, gear, and maybe a few guitar lessons as well. So hopefully this is going to be the first in a series of videos to come. In this one I'm going to show you two ways of recording your tube amp with using 2Notes' new software called Genome. So we're going to incorporate you're going to learn how to incorporate your tube amp with the software that 2Notes just released. So anyway, let's get into it. Here we go. Okay, so the first way I record my tube amp with Genome is I use a Loadbox, and I connect my Loadbox between the amp head, rather the amp section, and the speaker section of the amp. So what I do is I capture both the preamp section and the power amp section, and then send it to the sound card and subsequently to my DAW. And this is how to do that. Alright, so here's my DSL1, and this is how I recorded using a Loadbox. So this is my Loadbox, a 2Notes torpedo captor. I've got my amp set up. Let me see if I can get the back of this. So here's the speaker out of the amp. Okay, and if you can see this, so this is the speaker cable that goes into that socket there. I've got a speaker cable coming out, going into the input of my Loadbox. Okay, it's a reactive Loadbox. It simulates a speaker load, and from there I take a XLR cable on the out here, going straight into my sound card, Focusrite 2i2. Right, and this is what it sounds like. Okay, so let's get into it. So this is Genome or Genome, I don't know how you pronounce that. First things, I am going straight into my amp through my pedal board. I have two pedals active, the either or. So for the clean boost, I've got an exotic RC booster on, and for an overdrive I'm using a Maxon ST9. So I have a switch that I can switch between both. So right now this is my amp going straight into the interface, and it sounds like this. Right, that sounds pretty bad because it's just the power amp straight into the interface, no speaker simulation at all. So this is a blank preset on Genome, and the first thing you want to do is, we've got the power amp section, so we want to add a cabinet impulse response. And if you scroll down to any of these blank boxes and just scroll down to cabinet, and you have two options. You can use a custom impulse response loader, or you can use the Wall of Sound Dynamic IR, 2Notes' signature cab impulse response software. So I'm going to use that, and already it sounds superb. So this is a cab that I think it's based on a Marshall 4x12. You have a bunch of different cab options around. So you have, okay, so 1x12 based on a Fender Vibro King, 2x12. I think this is based on the Sir Badger cab. Quite a legendary cab in its own right. I have a Sir Badger amp, and it's one of my favorite amps of all time. So yeah, you have a few more. I really like since I'm using the Marshall DSL, I think I'm gonna go with a Marshall cab. So yeah, this one's pretty good. Go with the vintage seat. Yeah, and then you have your mic choices. So I can use a bunch of different mics here. So here, yeah, the usual combination. This is a Royer 121 and an SM57. Two favorite mics to mic guitar cabs with. And you can choose your distance, like the distance from the cab and the axis. You want it on axis, off axis. You can customize that. Right, so this is pretty good. So right now I'm going through my RC booster into the Marshall DSL-1. So, and it's on the distortion channel. If I switch to the SD9 and bridge pickup. Already very usable sound. Alright, so after this you have these empty slots, and you can add like if you want some reverb, some delay. I like to add reverb, so they have this one studio reverb, which is pretty much all you need for reverb. So let's select a nice club verb. So this sounds like, and you can kind of decrease the dry and wet here. So this one's good. Even the slap reverb, I really like that one. That one's nice. So let's go back to the RC booster and a neck pickup. And what I really like about Genome is it has this nice, so if you go down here to stereo width and the studio twin tracker, it instantly widens out your guitar. And then the balance knob basically just, left or right. So let's put that dead center. And the tightness is what gives you the stereo widener. So you have, put that up. If you want it wider, turn it full. If you want it center. And these are very usable sounds. I really like them. Let's turn this off. You can add some, let's take this off and put a delay between the reverb and the cab. So delay, here we are. So let's add some studio delay. Again, dry wet, bring that down. You have a bunch of presets, so you have right, so let's take Bright Room. Okay, the dotted 8. Let's turn the delay off. Yep, so this is how to use your amp, your tube amp with Genome with a Loadbox. And yeah, stay tuned for the second method. Okay, this is the second way of recording your tube amp with Genome. So in this way, we're only going to record the preamp section of your amp. This method works if your amp has an effects loop. So if your amp has an effects loop, that's a send and a return jack, you just grab a guitar cable and take a cable from the send jack of your amp straight into your interface, USB audio interface. So your amp now you're just recording the preamp section. The drawback of this method is that you don't get your power amp section. So this works if you have kind of a low-end guitar amp, especially like the one I'm using now, the DSL1, and you want a better power amp section. Genome helps you to do that. You upgrade the power amp section of your amp. So you still get the response and warmth of a tube amp because you're running the preamp section, but you can upgrade that power amp section with the software that Genome provides. The drawback about with this method is that you can't record your amp silently. The amp is still connected to the speaker. So in this way, the amp is still connected to the speaker. So you obviously you never disconnect never run your tube amp without a speaker load, because that can be dangerous for the amp. This way the amp is still connected to the speaker. You just connect a cable from the preamp section and you bypass the power amp section, and this is how it's done. And this is the second way I record my amp. Now this way is without the load box. So I've got my pedal board going into the front of the amp as usual. The magic happens at the back of the amp. So if I turn this around, this is the power cable. I have this cable coming out of the send jack of the effects loop. So this sends it out, and this cable goes out straight into the second input of my 2i2 interface. So what I'm doing here is I am recording just the preamp section of my amp. You don't get the power amp section. Right. And here we are back to Genome. So now, since I've got my amp connected to the interface, I've just got the preamp section connected this time, not the power amp section. So I just have the preamp. I think it has a 12AX7 tube if I'm not mistaken, straight into my interface. So the first thing, again, it sounds like this. Sounds like shit. But first thing I want to do is add a power amp. So I'm going to go to the amplifier section, and Genome has this very cool thing called the TSM power amp. I'm going to click on that, and instantly I've got power amp kind of simulation right there. But again, it still sounds bad because I need to add a cab. So I'm going to add the same thing we did last time, add a impulse response here, and here we go. It's pretty usable. I like this. I like this tone. It's not bad. Okay, so we can kind of tweak it a bit. So we have in the power amp section, we have this knob that chooses the different tubes. So if 6L6, EL34, EL84, and KT88. So since I'm using a Marshall DSL, Marshalls are known for EL34s and KT88s. So this is what it sounds like, 6L6 tube with the EL34. EL84s and KT88s. All usable sounds. And what I like about this is it has this depth knob. So this, if you know the Soldanos and a couple of 100-watt amps, they have this depth knob at the output section. So it makes the amp sound deeper in a good way. I like the amps that have the depth section, the output stage. some of them have in the preamp, and that kind of just muddies up the whole amp. So this kind of, it brings in the depth without losing some of that definition. So you get, and this kind of does that to an extent. I mean, obviously a soldano is a soldano, but this it does kind of give you that effect. So put it on 6L. So what this does is, like, since I've got like a really 1 watt Marshall, this section really helps to make the amp sound bigger. Right, and then you have this contour knob, which is basically like a mid kind of. Put it all the way up. And just bring that down. Bring the volume up. Somewhere there. And has the triode pentode thing. And the push pull. Quite usable sounds right there. Split up to EL34s because that was a riff from one of my favorite Indian guitar players, Blackstrat Blues. His song E Major Blues. But yeah, it does sound reminiscent of his. I think he used a OD100 to record that. Sorry if I'm not mistaken. This sound a bit reminiscent of that. It's got that depth in the low end. I'm really liking the sound of the power amp section on this. So you get the response of the tubes from your tube amp, and you get the depth and from a big power amp, right, when you put this up. And then yeah, if you add in the reverb like we did earlier, so that really completes the sound. So you can put like a slap reverb, bring it back to the amp section. And one thing to remember when you're playing Marshall DSLs, actually any of the DSL series, they really sound much better when you turn your guitar volume down, past 8 at least. You go anything more than 8 and it starts getting too fizzy. This is what it sounds like. Down. And it starts getting a lot better. Right, so this is what it sounds with the Maxon SC9 on the bridge pickup. It sounds very nice. that actually sounds very nice. And back to the RC booster auto phase pickup. Right, and that's how you use Genome to record your guitar amp, your tube guitar amp. I'm really happy with how that sounds. It's very usable. I'm really excited. I'm probably going to run all my other amps through this again and see what this sounds like. I mean, if this is what the DSL-1 can do with this, I'm interested to see what the others can do. I really like this power amp section. Like, you just run a preamp from your any of your tube amps, and then this power amp section really brings this to life. Especially if you have like a cheap amp like the DSL-1, it really improves the power amp section of that. Right, I hope you guys could use something in this video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.